Okay. We're going to go ahead and start. Morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started in a comfortable seated position. Find something that works for you. As you know, this class is more on the gentle side of things, even though sometimes I like to take a more intense course. I really like to teach something that is more on the gentle side, yin side, adaptable, accessible, trauma-informed, something that I feel that I hope that more people can access than typically feel comfortable in a yoga practice or a yoga studio, in fact. Another way to make it accessible is to have it available at home. And so today I'm recording this so that you all can watch it later. So go ahead and close your eyes or lower your gaze or just soften your face. Find some way to sort of help your mind zone out a little bit. Stand here and see if you can bring your shoulders up to your ears and back and down. Hands on your thighs, your knees. See if you can engage your core, support your back. Just notice your body as it settles into this posture, as it settles onto the mat, as it settles onto the floor. Use your mind to find your breath, so locate your breath and notice it without judgment, without changing it. Just notice your breath as it moves in and out of your body. Imagine where the breath is going as you breathe in. Where in your body does it go? Sure, it goes into your lungs, but where else do you feel it? Do you feel that sensation as you breathe in and breathe out? And then take the next few breaths, imagining that the breath as you breathe in fills up your entire body. Send it to all the corners of your body. Breathe out. And do that for a few more breaths. And if you came to the mat with a particular intention, sometimes we show up for ourselves for a reason. Perhaps dedicate your practice to that intention right now. Oftentimes my intention is be present. It's one of the hardest things for me. And I appreciate the opportunity to indulge in it when I come to the mat. And then drop your chin to your chest. If your eyes are closed, slowly open them. And then bring your head to a neutral position. We'll start with some movement now, just with our arms all the way up to the sky. Bring them into the prayer position and come down. We'll do that several times just to get some movement in our arms and our shoulders. Sometimes I like to bring my head up and look up as my arms go up, and then bring it down. You keep your shoulders down as you do this. And then when you're ready, bring your hands to the heart center. Release. And we'll begin with some twists next. So twist over to the right side. Place your left hand outside of your right thigh. And use your right arm like a kickstand behind you. And twist to the right. And send your gaze behind you. Come back to center. We'll go in the other direction. Hand outside of your thigh. And your left arm behind you as a kickstand. Twist to the left. Then your gaze behind you. We'll come back to center. And now send that right arm out to the side. Left arm up overhead. Keep both hips on the floor. And feel that stretch. Can you feel it all the way up the side of your left side, all the way to your fingertips? Keep your gaze forward or look up toward the ceiling. Come all the way up and let's go over to the other side. Again, keep both hips on the floor so you can maximize that stretch on the side. Keep your gaze forward or look up. When you look up, you kind of cause a little bit of a twist in your torso. Go ahead and come up. Now let's come over onto our knees and our hands. Come into tabletop. Knees hip width apart, located underneath our hips, and wrists underneath our shoulders. Core engaged. Make an L with your index finger and your thumb, so two L's facing each other. And keep most of the weight of the front of your hands on the index finger and the thumb. Let's go ahead and do some cat and cows. You can move at your own pace. And consider your breath. Perhaps your breath moves in one direction, in and out in the other direction. Always through your practice, think about how you can align your breath with the movement of your body. And take any movements you want. Sometimes I like to look around at my hip and then go to the other side. Let's make some circles with our bodies. Even coming beyond our wrists to give it a little bit of a stretch. And another circle. Let's go the other direction. And then find your core, engage it again in that tabletop. Send that right leg out behind you. Keep both hips square, parallel with the floor. Let's flex and point. And bring it down to the other side. Left leg out, core engaged, hips squared with the floor. And flex and point. Flex, point. Come back down to tabletop. Send that right leg out and keep it on the ground. And we'll do some more flexing. Forward, and rock back, and forward. Back, forward. And lift that leg off the ground. And bring it out to the side, like your little crab. And come back out to the back. And back to tabletop. Left leg out, extend it out. And we'll rock backwards, forwards, backwards. From here, lift that leg up and bring it out to the side. And send it back out. Come back to tabletop. Send our leg out, the right leg out again. Core engaged. And if you're able to, send your left arm out in front of you. And then bring your knee and your elbow together. Back out. Together. Back out. Together. Back out. And then place your left hand down on the floor. And bring your right foot in between your hands. So we're in a little bit of a low lunge. See if you can drop your hips a little bit more. Extend that stretch. And then walk your hands back and lift your right toes off the floor for runner stretch. Come back forward into the lunge. And backwards into that stretch. Come back into that low lunge. If you want to, you can stay here or tuck your toes and bring your left knee off the ground. And from here, we're going to move into downward facing dog. In downward facing dog, I want you to, again, use those hands, the index finger and the thumb. That's where most of the pressure is on your hands. And send your torso back even more than straightening your legs. You can begin to straighten your legs, but just use those hands to push your torso back towards your thighs. And then come back down to tabletop. And we'll do the other side. Send that left leg out. And then send the right arm out. Keep that core engaged, that back flat. And then bring your elbow and your knee together. And back out. Together. And back out. Together. And back out. Bring that right hand back to the floor, and I want you to bring your left foot in between your hands and send your hips forward and down for the low lunge. If you can just sink into this posture. And then walk those hands back with the toes off the ground for a stretch. And walk your hands forward, back into the lunge. Walk yourself back to the runner stretch. Forward into the lunge. And back to the runner stretch. And forward again. Tuck those toes. You can either stay here or tuck your toes and lift that back knee off the ground. And then from here, plant those hands and come back into downward facing dog. Your thumb and index finger making an L where the weight is, and use those hands to push your torso back towards your thighs. You can pump your legs here, drop one heel and then the other, drop another heel and then the other. And then come up on your tiptoes. Bend your knees so that your belly touches your thighs, and then begin to straighten your legs, probably not all the way. And come back down into tabletop. Bring your big toes together. We're going to come into child's pose, but some of you may know I like to get into child's pose in a particular way. So push your big toes together And then walk yourself back so that your hips are on your heels. And then from here, begin to walk your hands out in front of you and drop your forehead to the floor. You might need to make some adjustments in order to get here, and it's okay if the hips don't stay on the heels. Maybe you need to move your belly out of the way so you can get further down. Keep those arms extended. And again, like we did in downward facing dog, see if you can use your hands to push your butt closer to your heels. And come back up to tabletop. And from tabletop, we're going to go into a plank. So see if you can do one leg at a time. Come into plank pose. If you need to stay on your knees, that's okay to do plank. Or you're up on your balls of your feet. Your heels are pointing straight up toward the ceiling. Your core is engaged. Your back is flat. I'm going to stay here for another couple of breaths. And then bend your elbows and come all the way down to the ground. Untuck your toes. We'll do some baby cobras. Just lift your chest off the ground. Doesn't have to be very far. We'll come down. We're going to do this several more times. Each time, see if you can get a little bit higher off the ground. Maybe even take your hands off the ground. Just at your own pace. Go up and down. And then keep your hands on the ground. Let's see if you can bring that cobra up as high as possible. Hips stay on the ground. Elbows close to the body. Shoulders down and back. Come all the way down and drop your right chin to the floor. Release your your right cheek to the floor. Release your arms beside your body and just stay here for a couple of breaths. And bring your elbows back onto the floor. We'll do a Sphinx pose here for probably about a minute. So bring your elbows below your shoulders. Feet out beside you. You can give you a couple of choices. You can either have your toes together or butt hip width apart. And then what we're going to do is you're going to use your hands and your arms to pull back so that you send your chest forward. Again, shoulders down and back. So it's like you're pushing backwards with your arms, that pushes your chest out forward. And just have your gaze just a couple of inches, maybe a foot beyond your fingers, but nothing more. We want to protect your back. There's no need to do a back lift your neck right now. And we'll just hold this posture for about a minute. Go ahead and drop back down to the floor, this time with your left cheek on the floor and your arms released beside you. And then bring those hands beside your armpits. We'll do another cobra. And tuck those toes. We're going to come up into downward facing dog. Here in downward facing dog, bring your right hand outside of your left leg for a bit of a twist. Run back to downward facing dog. We'll do the other side. And come back down to tabletop. Here we're going to do a stretch. We're going to stretch our wrists out a little bit. So slowly begin to walk your hands out to the side. And once you get to the side, that might be fine, where they're both, all your fingers are pointing off the mat. If you want, though, keep walking them back until your wrists say, stop doing that. They'll tell you. Once you, maybe even your fingers are pointing now towards your knees. We'll stay here just a few breaths. Give our wrists a stretch. They don't always get a stretch like this. Even rock backwards and forwards very gently. So gently you almost can't even tell you're doing it. And then as slowly as you got into it, come back and walk them around until the fingers are pointing forward off the mat. Now bring your knees together, tuck your toes, and then sit back on your toes. Bring both of the backs of your hands together. Just shake out those wrists. This is to distract you from the sensation you feel by having your toes tucked. And we'll come back to tabletop, back up to downward facing dog. Send your right leg up to the sky to three-legged dog. Bring it forward, your knee forward towards your right armpit, and then drop it onto the floor. Drop that left knee on the floor and untuck those toes. Keep your heel close to your pelvis. Come rise up here. You can even lift your arms off the ground if you want. You can keep your hands on the floor the whole time. And walk yourself forward, drop both knees, both elbows. I name my body parts today. Drop both elbows onto the floor for pigeon. You can stay right here, or you can make a little pillow with your hands and drop your head to the floor. And we'll stay here for about a minute. As you're in this posture, there's lots of ways to do it. So you could be on your elbows, you can stay up. But whatever expression of the posture you're in, check out your hips and see if they are even with the floor. So I want them both to be equally parallel to the floor. So that might require a little bit of adjustment. Usually it's that right hip that is popping up and you might need to drop it a little bit, which helps you feel the stretch better. Go ahead and walk back up to those elbows, back up to your hands, tuck your toes, and come back into three-legged dog. And then back to downward facing dog. You can stay here in downward facing dog for a couple of breaths. And then send that left leg up to three-legged dog. And bring that knee close to your left elbow. Drop the leg down, untuck the right toes, drop that right knee. You can stay right here. You can maybe try taking your arms up off the ground. And begin to walk forward onto those elbows if that's where you want to be. Of course, you can always stay right here. Walk down onto your elbows and stay right here. Make a pillow with your hands and drop your forehead into that pillow. Again, check your alignment and see if your hips are equally spaced parallel to the floor. Make any adjustments you need to. We'll stay here for about a minute. So come back up to those elbows, up to your hands, tuck your right toes, send that left leg back up to the sky for three-legged dog, and back down to downward dog. This is our last downward dog. So do whatever you want. And then walk your hands and your feet together to meet each other. And forward fold. Bend those knees enough so that your hands have contact with the floor. The palms don't have to be on the floor, be on your tiptoes, but just find enough of a bend until you can find contact with the floor with your hands. And walk those hands out. So walk those feet out, turn them out, about hip width apart. And we're going to come down into yogic squat. With yogic squat, I want your heels on the floor. If they're not on the floor, then grab a pillow or a blanket or something to put in between your heels and the floor so that that can create the contact. And if you don't have a pillow or a blanket, you can't get there, then just go ahead and drop your butt to the floor. And use those elbows to widen your hips. Not with any force, but just by their presence. And close your eyes or lower your gaze here. Connect back in with your body. How does it feel different than when we started our practice? Observe your breath again. Notice as it moves in and out of your body. And place both of your hands behind your butt and drop your butt down to the ground and bring both of your legs forward. We're going to do some forward folds here. Both arms up overhead, shoulders down and back. And what I like to do is fold forward with a flat back until I can't anymore, and then round it. And drop those hands anywhere. They can be on your shins, they can be on the floor, they can wrap around your feet, wherever your body wants them to be this morning is right for you. And you may even need a little bit of a bend in your knees to help support this fold. Go ahead and walk yourself up. Come into bound ankle, feet press to each other, hands on your ankles, and push both knees to the walls beside you, shoulders down and back, core engaged. We'll walk forward just like we did before. Again, walk until you find a spot that works for your body. We're going to stay here for several breaths. Walk yourself back up. We'll lay on our back. Go ahead and lay flat on the back, arms stretched out beyond you. We'll walk over to the right, walk your hands and your feet over to the right to crescent moon. If you can feel that stretch all the way from your feet, your left foot all the way up to your left hand. And then we'll walk back to center and over to the left side. Walk back to center. Bring your feet onto the floor, just beyond your butt. Perhaps if you extend your fingers, you can maybe touch the back of your heel. We'll do a bridge pose. But we'll gradually move ourselves into bridge. So go ahead, keep your arms beside you. Lift your hips off the floor just a bit. And come down. And a little bit more. Come down. A little bit more. Come down. A little bit more. And come down. And now see if you can find your fullest expression, bridge pose. So hips all the way up. Perhaps you tuck your shoulders behind you and clasp your hands. Keep those palms together. Send your hips up toward the ceiling, towards the sky. Knees are pointed forward. They have flashlights on them. You can see both beams on the ceiling. Unbind your shoulders, slowly roll your back down to the ground. Bring both arms and legs out, stretch them out on the ground. Make yourself as tall as possible. And then bring both knees onto the floor again. And bring them into your chest. Wrap your arms around them. And then send both knees over to the right. And bring your arms out into a T shape or to goalpost arms, whichever one you want to do. They give a little bit of a different stretch. So see what your body needs. Today, you can do that. And send your gaze over to the left while your knees are over to the right. Bit of a twist. Come back to center. Wrap those arms around your knees again. And then send the knees over to the left. Arms back out by your side. Extended in goalpost or T shape. And your gaze over to the right. We'll come back to center. Take any last movement that you want before you meet me in corpse pose for Shavasana. Once you get there, have your heels as wide as the mat, your arms extended beside you, palms facing up. And lower your gaze or close your eyes if they're not already. We'll just rest here. Bring our attention back to our breath. Notice how it fills up our body. Fills up our lungs and our body, nourishes us. And then breathe out. And keep doing that. Drum pace. And find some movement in your arms, your hands, and your feet. You make circles with your wrists and your ankles in the other direction. Roll over onto your side. Connect back in with your intention if you brought one to the mat today. Express some gratitude for yourself. Push yourself back up to a seated position. Find someplace comfortable for you to sit. Bring your hands to the heart center. back in with your breath. Every class I've been to, every exercise class I've been to this week, they've been talking about intentions instead of resolutions and very inspirational speeches. I'm not going to give any of those. Although I did write about it in my newsletter. But I just want to send you off and wish you well this new year. This arbitrary moment in time where we start the clock new, fresh, although the past comes along with us, but it gives us an opportunity to think into the future and what we want to do this year and how we want to be and how we want to show up for ourselves. So today I celebrate you, and I celebrate you showing up for yourself and being who you are today and every day. Thanks for being here. And I hope you have a nice day.